Welcome, everyone, back to another episode of Tidebringer, the podcast presented by NADCL. My name's Wesley. My co-host is Sandwich, who refuses to reveal his face like a coward. And
Hey, guys.
We have our guest for this week, the one, the only PPD runner of NADCL. It's his brainchild. And then from Bullish on Gaming, at least currently, we have Skyward. How are y'all doing?
How we doing?
I'm doing great.
Yeah, I'm doing all right as well. Obviously could be better. I mean, we did just lose, but you guys got great company. We got a TI winner and an NADCL winner, so like a bunch of equal accomplishments going around the board here. So it's a pleasure being here.
Yeah, and Peter, you have connections to the Bullish on Gaming sort of team, right? Like, what's your connection there?
Loose connections. I mean, the brand is a podcast essentially, and then I guess that podcast has a Discord server where like all the guys hang out that listen to the podcast sometimes. Yeah, it's more like a little social club. But yeah, I'm a part of that. I helped start that, and then I was like, you guys should get a team in the league, right? As I did with like many of the other teams. It's like this league is a kind of an extension of my network in a way.
And for you, Skyward, it's your second week now playing for the Bullish on Gaming stack. What's the sort of relationship been with between players and ownership-wise for that stack?
I mean, from the I believe Bill is one of the like co-owners. I haven't really interacted with him too much. Most of my interactions have been with Alpine.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to be honest, I couldn't imagine like a better team organizer to sort of hang out with. I mean, we play games outside of just Dota. I feel like he's really become a part of the team. It's not as like corporate where you got your heads that are just paying the bills and you got the players. It feels like we're really like a connected, almost like a family, I'd say. So it's been a pleasure to get to know all these guys both up above and my team.
Yeah, Alpine has done a great job of kind of taking on that role. Like I get to see as like the server admin, I get to see all of the different chats, and some of the teams it's dead, right? I think Grin has like a Discord of their own, so a lot of that stuff, a lot of the NADCL stuff goes on there, but some of them are dead, others are active. I think Bullish on Gaming has done a great job. Maybe from that, winning the first week, the good vibes were high. But yeah, hopefully, yeah. When the other teams, it was fun to see Grin almost win yesterday because they kind of have like the most people involved, supporter wise.
Yeah, Grin's chat is usually pretty active.
Yeah, and Karma is like memes and stuff he posts are pretty funny, I think.
Yeah.
There's a few teams doing some nice meme metagaming. Astronauts does a pretty decent job as well with their sort of media.
Yeah, Bush is a really, really smart guy, really talented.
Is there any scrimming going on Bullish on Gaming, or are you guys entering clean slate every week?
So before week one, we started some scrims. We didn't get a chance to really scrim too many teams within NADCL. Just because a lot of them were busy. I think we scrimmed maybe Fry Boys at some point. Now we've been scrimming. We actually scrimmed some SADPC teams, which I felt kind of like a cheat code because like we're playing like these like 9K, 9.5K average stacks, and like we were kind of giving them the business. They it go both ways, and I think that's part of a lot of our advantage into week one was that we already had like a previously established like rapport with all our teammates. Like I've teamed with Triceps like several times over the past 3 years. Xeriscape I've played tons of in-houses with. Ash I just played a DPC season with, and I've known Flea for ages. So just being able to get this group together, like we already felt like we had a leg up, and then when we started scrimming, I mean, we kind of felt bad after week one because it felt like the scrims were a little overkill because I felt like a lot of the other teams weren't really as ready or as cohesive as we were in that first week.
So what happened week 2? You show some mercy or what?
Yeah, so week 2 obviously was a little tough. I think we kind of let our foot off the gas a little bit in week 2. It was more nonchalant. Like I had a fantasy football draft like right before the series, so I didn't really play a warm up pub. Typically we all meet, we play overthrow, like we meet like an hour before. I know Flea had some things on his mind that he had to deal with later in the night, so I think it was more of like we weren't as invested as week 1, and I think that was sort of where our blunder came. We got beat by a better team because week 1 we played a very similar Astronaut esports roster, and like these guys are good. The moment you give them any like slack, they're just gonna run with it, and that's kind of what happened in that series.
Yep, I kind of agree. I think the 8-9 pick, right, in the very beginning of the draft, getting Rojo and Double King is giving them, they kind of are like, yeah. I mean, they didn't win the first tournament, right? But it's not really a surprise that they won the second one.
Well, they were third in the first one, right? Or
Oh,
around there.
sorry. Yeah. Well, they just lost in the semifinals, right? So
Yeah,
they're
second, third.
definitely one of the best teams, and they're anchored by two of the best players in the league, I would say. Like Rojo and Double King are they top 5 players? I mean, who else is better than those two, right? Maybe Flea.
According to In-House
Top
League,
three.
A and B is up there.
I mean,
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
AMB news.
Like,
Well, I mean, that's another good subject to get to eventually too. I wanted to double back on the scrimming thing because in my vision for this league, I never anticipated for teams to actually scrim. I thought it would just be like get the boys together Thursday, Friday night and play like some in-house NA Dota. So just kind of like sitting back and watching it all happen, being like the little puppeteer almost. It was kind of funny to see some teams and like some of the team owners, like it was very unclear like what the responsibilities were, right? Because there weren't really any. I didn't expect team owners to try and like set up practices for their team and stuff, but it just goes to show like who wants to put in the extra sweat equity and maybe help their team win the tournament, which is cool.
and I think one of the other things, especially with this team, and what I found with this league was when NADCL first ran like a couple of years ago, I played in it with a stack of mine, and I think we won whatever the silver division or something like that. This is before the whole DPC cycle. But I think now with this DPC promotes, especially within North America, is keeping a cohesive roster together for a long time is sort of how you like make that upper Div 2, qualify to Div 1 echelon. It's less about the individual skill of players and more about that group cohesion. And I think that's what we found with this team is, and even a lot of these NADCL teams, I could see a lot of these players sort of starting to talk on the sides, forming some new bonds, new connections, and trying to turn some of these teams into DPC teams. So for me going into this league, that was actually one of the things that I was looking at to see, if my team does really well, is there an angle where, maybe we take this, we play a DPC qualifier, this becomes a DPC team, Bullish on Gaming becomes, like these angles they're a possibility. Yeah. So it's definitely something to look out for.
Well, are you making a lot of friends, Skyward? I know you do a lot of
Hey,
trash talk.
I mean, you know me. I like keeping the banter. A lot of it's because I feel like, especially not only is it entertaining for outside observers, but I feel like talking some shit gets like it draws more out of people, and I really want to know that I beat someone at their best. You know what I mean? Like if I'm in someone's head and they're gonna try that extra 10% to try to beat me, and then I still win, it feels all the more satisfying. So I mean, after the games, most of the time I'll like message the player and be like, nothing personal. I was just trying to keep it entertaining. Obviously, some people take it more personally than others. Some people I actually don't like, but
I actually think you crossed the line. And if I was the admin in the game, like when you were playing against who was it? Was it Paladins or no? It was who was your first round opponent?
Oh yeah, Paladins.
No, it's the Trash Knights this week, right?
Oh, Trash
Knights.
Yeah,
Trash Knights.
Yeah, you actually paused the game to all chat.
I did do that.
I think that is the line. I think you should never pause the game.
Yeah, no, that I agree. Because I know personally, I got paused on by door the other game, and I was like, yeah, pausing is a little far. It was a bit I talked about with my team prior. Because the running gag was he said at 15, like he wants to make my game a nightmare for the first 15 minutes of the game. Okay. And we were going high ground at 15 minutes. So I figured I'd give him the 15-minute pause and be like, yo, I need a fucking breather, guys. I'm going through it. But pausing is definitely a line. I agree. I don't think I'll be pausing much anymore. But hopefully I was able to bounce it back with the TikToks, though. I feel like those were pretty funny. I know people got their fun out of those.
Those were great. People love those. And yeah, I don't know if that's on the agenda, but maybe we should talk about the Trash Knights as well for a little as well.
What do you have to say about the Trash Knights?
Well, I think that they didn't really pick like good players. I felt like Paladins in the first week didn't really pick the best players because I don't think that they were super familiar with NA Dota and like who was the best. And then this week I feel like the Trash Knights, like they got rid of their first draft picks, essentially, like letting their best players back into the pool with Shaggy and I don't know who the other one was, but and then he picked himself, right? And he's like, I think Johnny's like what 4K, 5K or something.
I think he's a 2K.
2K. I don't know what MMR is, but anyways, he was in the game. So they're kind of like sabotaging themselves. I think some of the players were a little upset with like the way the team is being ran, right? So they don't want to be gobbled up next time because they want to go be a free agent elsewhere. So
Yeah.
it's it's like a fine line between like enabling somebody who puts in a lot of money to run the league, and then also trying to like represent the players, because I think what this league is about a lot of the time is prioritizing the supporters who are paying for everything to go around. I feel like the last 10 years of esports, everybody was just bending over for the players and giving them everything for free, and which was great, right, for gamers and people that wanted to be pros. But the people that were trying to run the businesses and stuff like weren't making money, I think.
So you feel like Trash Knights are kind of maybe abusing their power a little bit by like drafting in some lesser players, or maybe gobbling up people who don't want to stay on the team or something like that?
I think that they're not necessarily putting their best foot forward towards winning the tournaments, right? Which is frustrating for players who want to win the tournaments, right? Because the only way that they succeed is, by winning. I think there's opportunity that like you get to be picked, right? And you get to play, which is great. But if you don't feel like you can win, right? Like, and you're going into it with that attitude, the sentiment on the team probably isn't very great. So it maybe it's just not even that fun to participate at that point. So not everybody had a fun week, I think.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely seemed more like a joke draft, and I was like a minute away from standing in for Colonel Squid. I was like in the lobby. I was joined on the team, but he showed up at the last literal minute, or else I would have been playing too.
I think one of the big things with the Trash Knights and sort of like kind of what obsessed me as a player is I think if your team is bad in week one, because like you don't know some people, or even if your week one draft is kind of like a joke, like for the later rounds, I think that's acceptable. But I think the whole thing is if you lose early, right, you get the advantage of getting another early pick in the future weeks, and you have earlier draft picks, and you can rebuild, right? So you want to keep your two like better players, and maybe week 2, week 3 comes along, and you're finally able to field a roster that can compete. But when you're like letting your best players go, and you're getting, you have the owner gobbling up himself, it feels like this team never really has a chance to compete, and every week is going to be the same thing. And so, like, if I was a player on that team, I would have very little incentive to want to show up to games where people aren't taking it as seriously, because you're just going to get wiped 2-0, and then you're going to go next week, and it's going to be the same thing. So it honestly feels like they're kind of getting held hostage, because if you're a good player, getting picked on that team, but then the owner keeps gobbling up himself and picking joke players, then it's like, well, like, what do? You're going to show up every week and you're just going to lose. So I mean, it kind of sucks. I really would like to see them take it a bit more seriously, especially with their draft picks, because good players are going in the pool. They're just not picking them. They're just, they're kind of just joking around, and it just feels bad if you're one of the 5 players that sort of has to be subject to that.
I mean, I think one of the cool things about a league like NADCL is because you're trying to basically, sure, there's a monetary incentive in winning the league, but there's also monetary incentive in selling supporter packs. And so I think there is an avenue in this league to try to like orient a team around entertainment value or something like that. I don't think Trash Knights are necessarily maybe doing that, or maybe succeeding at doing that, but I think it's cool that there's these 2 avenues or ways to like approach creating a Dota roster. But it is a little strange that they're choosing to prioritize, picking themselves or not holding on to best players. It feels like they're not making up for not winning in any meaningful way.
I think if we had more of like a different format where maybe it was like group stage, right? Like it wouldn't feel so bad. Like people would just be getting games and they would just, I don't know, they might lose all of them, but at least they were playing.
Yeah, like imagine like an Arkosh, right? It's like a purely entertainment oriented. You get a bunch of streamers into a team and you're going to draw a big audience.
They lose all their games, right?
Yeah,
Except
but who cares?
Maybe one, right? Maybe one. And that's their moment of glory for the season.
Sure. But in a format like this, they're selling supporter packs all the way. So as long as they have games where they're in front of an audience and they're drawing in fans, it doesn't matter whether they win necessarily, because they have like a sort of entertainment roster rather than a competitive roster.
Sure.
And
Sure.
I think, especially with the entertainment roster, I think if you're gonna go with that angle, and not to like take too many digs here, I feel like you have to like really put more into being entertaining and bringing like content. 'Cause I feel like I haven't really seen much from Trash Nights. If you want to pick a joke roster, if you guys want to have fun, like I don't know, Tempest is like his only like method of like bringing content is just like trying to shit talk me, which like doesn't make any sense, right? Like if you're gonna have fun with it, like you really have to like off your shit talk game, you
No,
have to
I
like
agree.
make some content stuff like that. But it's just like this is just a joke roster that like all the content produced out of that game was just me recording videos, and it's like I'm not even on that team, right? So it's like if you just have some other team that just silently wins the game, no one's gonna watch it, no one's gonna care, and then they're 2-0 and call it a day. So if you want to build that kind of entertainment roster, that's fine, but you have to bring the entertainment with it. And I just feel like we're not getting that out of that team.
Oh man, guys,
Damn.
we're being way too harsh. I think. I mean, this league is just for fun, Like,
I know, but I think what a lot about what you guys are saying is right. I think that this league was just, if this league was like way more serious, then you're absolutely right. Right, like it's fair to say like maybe they're not bringing their fair share of value to the table. But this league is like this is like super grassroots bootstrapped. Like all of the team owners to me are like legendary NA Dota members, right? Like if NADCL becomes anything, right? Like these 8 teams, like they'll know that like they were here at like the very start of all of it, which is pretty cool, I think.
Yeah, and it's a big learning experience. Like any sort of like weird drama or whatever you want to call it that comes in during this first season, I think is mostly a consequence of us like figuring stuff out as we go along, right? Because this is something that's never been tried before or accomplished. And so there's going to be like weird things that we learn through the first season anyways.
There's 2 times I almost played, didn't quite get there with THV, and then again with Trash Nights, didn't make it. I was pretty hyped to play.
And that's what I mean. Like I feel like that team, if they drafted Sandwich, I feel like that's content right there. You know what I mean? Like you get so much entertainment. Like it goes down the value of like you're picking Sandwich. I feel like that would be the most watched game in the league because everyone wants to watch Sandwich play the game. You know what I mean? Like he's been getting hyped up for 2 weeks. Like get him in there. Put Sandwich on the roster. Let's see him play. Sandwich gets a kill. I want this guy to go crazy. Like I want the entertainment value out of that team, and I think they can bring it. It exists. They just need to like put in more effort. If you're gonna pay to get a slot in the league, bring the content with it because it's just more fun for everyone else.
I said I'd buy a supporter pack if Sandwich played, and he didn't play, so I didn't buy one. What can I say?
They're last place, so they get first pick. They've got to go convince like Mason or Slack to sign up, right? And then they pick those guys, and then they gobble them up, right? And they build the roster from there.
Yeah, true. I had a question for you, Peter. We're like pretty much like halfway through the NADCL, almost exactly, I think. I just kind of wanted to hear like a vibe check on how things are going. Are there any like big triumphs or takeaways? Is there something that it's like, oh, something definitely needs to change for next season? Like, is there a halfway through sort of review that you can deliver to us?
Yeah, there for sure is. I mean, I have thoughts on every single part of it about how to make it different or better or maybe keep it the same. I think a couple of format changes. I think maybe the league should last a little longer and have maybe an additional week between each tournament to give teams like a little time to practice if they want. I also think maybe we have too many events. Like maybe we don't need 4 events. Maybe we just go down to like 3 potentially. I don't know. I mean, I want to get more content creators involved, which I think is going to happen. I actually had a great text conversation with an NA Dota influencer who I think I can get behind a team for next season, which would be cool. But that's where I'd love to see it going. Like I want to see Arkosh come back, get a team in the league. I want to have all the big like Monkeys Forever. Somebody say like the big streamers, right? Get them in their communities behind running a team. And then next year, I definitely want supporters to be better incentivized, and by allowing them to participate in like a prize pool of their own. So they're not just like right now they're kind of like cheerleaders almost on the sidelines, which is cool as like a community member, right? Like you're showing off your tribe essentially. But a lot of people really want more pragmatic what do I get out of it kind of products, I think.
Yeah, I think on the consumer side, for me, the supporter packs feel a little strange at the moment because it's like, let's say I'm the biggest Skyward fan in the world, right? And so
A lot of those. You're competing
yeah,
with a big pool, brother.
and I say I mean I am. So obviously it'd be very convenient for me to get a Bullish on Gaming supporter pack because Skyward's played with them for 2 weeks. But let's say Skyward goes to another team for the next week, and then suddenly I'm no longer a Bullish on Gaming supporter in my heart, although I bought a supporter pack. I think the sort of, I'm not sure if consumers are like fully fans of orgs versus fans of players at the moment.
You're right. You're 100% right. And that's why next season we're going to try and make the supporter packages purchasable, sellable, and tradable. So you'll be able to. I want to create like a marketplace. So like the best teams their supporter packages will be worth more as you progress through the season and the prize pools increase. And the teams who do poorly, like Trash Knights, for example, like people will be trying to like get out of there. They'll be trying to like sell their investments on the loss, or not investments. Sorry, this is not securities. Sell your supporter package, right, to somebody else who would be willing to purchase it for lower than what you bought it for.
Yeah, that makes sense. So Skywards would be worth $1 million, and
well, I think it's fair
I'd
to
hold
say,
on to
like,
it for dear life.
Bullish on Gaming, Astronaut Esports, Grin, and probably Honored Vanguard or maybe Fryboys, right? Like those would inherently probably be worth more as we make progress to the grand finals, which has the biggest prize pool. So if the supporters, were kind of competing for a pool of their own, I think it would be very compelling.
Yeah,
more interesting, right? And less of like a fanboy experience, which has been like the current version of esports the past 10 years, where it's like, how excited can I get about like some other dude that I play Dota with? I mean, I'm happy for him, right? But I'm not like a fan of his team. Do you know what I mean? I'm gonna go out and like pump some VCs bags or something.
I mean, at least for me, I feel as the average NA Dota representative, I was a big EG fan for ages, and then RTZ went to Shopify, and now I'm a big Shopify fan. I feel like that's like 75% of North American Dota enjoyers. And so it's like, to me, was there any real allegiance to EG as a company? So, I'm like jumping ship or whatever.
Did you guys see Sentinels? They try to do like a public raise and sell a bunch of stock in their company. Did you see this? Do you guys know Sentinels?
$30 million.
Yeah, it's like a Valorant team. They said their company was worth $30 million. They asked their community for $1.2 million to sell like, I think it's like 4% or something. And it didn't sell, right? Nobody bought it. And dude, what was I talking about? Holy shit, I'm sorry.
Like supporters aren't putting money where their mouth is, sort of. Is that your point?
Nah, totally space. What were we talking about before?
I was talking about EG and Shopify.
Yeah, being able to transfer your interest in a team, essentially, right, is the problem. Because you don't feel comfortable investing money with an esports team, because what if RTZ leaves and go elsewhere? So they actually then had Tens. I'm sure you guys know, maybe Tens, yeah. huge Valorant player, gigantic streamer, guy's a fucking legend in gaming, right? He announced that he was like leaving the team, right? And then it's like, how much is Sentinels worth with Tens gone, right? It's like EG without RTZ, right? It's like it's no longer a $30 million company, right? It's like a $5 million company or something more humble. But yeah, I think being able to like, so when RTZ, like let's just say you held a bunch of Evil Geniuses supporter packages, right? And then Evil Geniuses kicked RTZ, or RTZ left the team, right? You would probably want to sell your supporter packages, as would everybody else, right? And it would be like a huge liquidity rush for that organization, which would suck, right? But it's the reality of the situation, because you're going to be losing all of those fans. And the ones that stay, right, they have an opportunity to like purchase more, right, at a discount if they really believe in that team, coming back and being successful.
Yeah, it's kind of neat.
So yeah, those are like the really complicated like market games that I think that we can create here and then hopefully take elsewhere. And I don't want, we could transition this into the creators league. Did you guys see that?
Yeah, I'd love to talk about that.
Okay. Do you want to lead, or should I?
I mean, just from my sort of layman's understanding, there's a league that a bunch of creators are kind of putting their hat into to kind of like be a sort of team owner in the same way that the team owners operate here at NADCL, except that they're creators and not sort of grassroots.
Yeah, so they have it's eFuse is an esports production company, similar to like an ESL, right? Like they created this whole thing. They got all these partnerships together. They got Mr. Beast to sponsor it, right? That's like the teams that are playing it are like Optic, OTK, Bella Porsche. You guys know her? I don't know who she is. I'm too old.
Yeah, she's like a TikToker.
Yeah, exactly. They huge influencers, right? Like the biggest of the biggest, and they're essentially like running the teams, right? And so, in order to participate in the tournaments, the first one is a Fortnite event. You have to own one of the passes or supporter package, the way we do it, and then you basically sign up, and then all of the supporters vote on which people actually get to participate in the competitions, and then they all participate in the prize money, right? If their community wins. Does that make sense? So
yes.
The drama with this thing is like the back end is all crypto, right? So when you buy your pass, you're buying an NFT, which apparently they didn't make it like super clear, right? And why should they, right? I don't feel like they need to. It's all like on the back end and you don't even know that you're doing this, but these are the kind of like cool products that like blockchain enables, but like the negative sentiment behind it just kills it at the beginning. So one of the creators made this like big post where he's like pulling out because he had no idea it was like crypto and NFTs. He's like, I hate it. I hate technology. Like it's
so my question is, what is NFT like? What is the NFT backend to offer that just having a sort of almost like a Steam marketplace where it's an item that you have and is connected to a dollar? Like, what is the difference? What does NFTs improve on that experience?
So that's a great question. I think that's one that a lot of people are asking is like, why did you have to do it this way? I don't have like the best answer for you, but my guess would be that that way they could identify their winners and pay them out. But I think this is like a multi-step kind of process, right? So right now there's no like marketplace that I was talking about to like buy, sell, and trade these things, but there very well could be in like the next season. And they're kind of like setting these people up with their own custodial wallets, if that makes sense. Like it's a wallet that runs, they just like connect their email or sign up with their Discord or whatever they want. And then they like manage the wallet in the back end for them.
So the tokenized element's almost like a tracking sort of element?
Yes. It's to track. It's to track. I call it like identify, target, and reward. Right? You're able to find out who has it, right? And then you can retarget their wallet with other offerings. Okay. Anyways, OTK, another organization who Asmongold, gigantic mega streamer, has been like another one of those guys that are just like, crypto's a scam, right? I hate it. Apparently they didn't know it was blockchain either, so now they're dealing with like some turmoil, I think. So we'll see how it goes. They tried to say that they were the first league, right, to come out with this model. I corrected them on LinkedIn, so we're good.
Gotta let them know. NADCL did do it first.
We launched in July, technically, was our supporter pack sales. So just, shout out to the NADCL fam. I heard they got paid 8 figures to run this thing. And it's all sponsored by Near, which is a blockchain. So they wanted activity on their network. So I'm just saying, like, there is gigantic money in blockchain technology. If we can find ways to create use cases in esports. So I think over the next like 6 months, I'm going to be trying to have a lot of these conversations with these different networks. And I hope that I can find like a fuck ton of sponsor money to blow this thing up.
Good luck.
That's awesome.
It seems like crypto needs a PR overhaul.
Yeah, exactly.
No, could I actually pose a question to you, Peter? It's sort of like a long-term goal for NADCL. What's like the long term? Do you want this to become something that is like the size of something, let's say a DBC? Maybe this turns into their like grand finals are played on land, stuff like that. Is that like the long-term future goal of like wanting to really blow this league up? Or
I think we as a Dota 2 community need to better organize ourselves around a central IP that isn't, oh, what is Valve going to do? Oh, what is ESL going to do? Like, we need to kind of take control of something on our own. So that's what I'm trying to build. At the moment, it's like super centralized behind me, but my goal would be to create something that was more decentralized, where everybody kind of had some sort of a stake in, and we could kind of have a seat at the table next to ESL and Valve in conversations, right? Like, we could actually imagine NADCL had like a digital, like an item in the game or something, right? Like, imagine the revenue that would bring to our esports program. So if we can like organize ourselves together, which is, I was trying to do this back in the day, but it's just so hard with TI because everyone is just, they only care about the prize money, right? And because the prize money is so high, they don't have to do anything else, right? But now that TI is like, what's going on with TI, right? It's kind of going away. I think it's not going to be what it was, right? So now people are thinking like, well, fuck, maybe, you know, I'm not going to go, what am I? I'm 30 years old now. I'm going to go do some other game now, right? No, you're Dota for life. So what are we going to do to bring, more attention to our scene? I think we need to, we actually need to build it ourselves and market it appropriately.
And I think Valve especially, or at least this year, I feel like we've been moving further away from the idea that like Valve runs everything, that everything runs through Valve. TI is all that matters. I think you have with like the Riyadh Masters, for example, we have, an absurd prize pool, tons of viewership, it's like this massive event that's occurring, and it brought a lot of traction. I think even recently within like Dota, I haven't felt so many like content updates in terms of like gameplay patches, bug fixes, more communication. And I think that's the angle I would like to see more, is more third parties, more other people getting involved, and Valve is just focusing on the game side. I would like patches, updates, blog posts, stuff like that. If it were left at that and the rest was like more community based and more community driven, I feel like the esport would be heading in a much healthier direction.
Agreed.
So do you think 30 years old is like a retirement age for a pro esports player? Like, what age is the maximum age you could see yourself like, I just can't play video games anymore, I'm out?
Are you asking for yourself, Sandwich? Because I think you have it.
You've still got it, bro. You got to keep it at it. Wait till you get your shot.
I think anyone can do it. I think Dota is a thing that requires a fuck ton of time. You got to play you got to play tons of games, right? Like, I have like 30K hours played or whatever. Or like, you got to put in, and this doesn't count like Heroes of New Earth or Dota 1 or all of that, right? Like, you got to put in a serious amount of time. I don't think it has necessarily to do with your age. I've noticed as I've got older, I've played less and less Dota because I've just been more interested on other things. I think it's hard to keep your focus on for some people, it's hard to keep your focus on just like being the best player you can be for so long. I think you can do it. I think you can play till you're 40, 50. I don't know.
So you're saying I could go pro?
Yeah, I actually don't think there's an age limit. I think that if you put the time in, right, and you have to be good at improving, right? Like, some people don't know how to improve. That's kind of the challenging part.
I've been thinking about this in terms of the China region, because they have that sort of like 18-year-old sort of like time lock on gaming now. You can like only play like an hour a day or something if you're under 18. And obviously that is like not good for trying to be a Dota player at all, because you need to grind. So I'm wondering if like people are going to hit that 18-year-old mark that are finally going to be able to play Dota. And then maybe 5 years down the road, we see like rookie Chinese players that are 26, 27, 28, something like that, rather than, usually it's like we have the 16-year-olds coming to LAN and they're the ones blowing people out of the water.
I think the era of like the 16-year-old players is kind of over for most of the regions. I feel like Dota is a game that it's sort of grown with its like, or like it's aged with its like community, if that makes sense. So I think really the regions you're seeing the younger players is going to be like South America, because I think actually a lot of it's tied to like LAN cafes and just like Dota's influence on the region. I know Dota's big in South America. Obviously, LAN cafes are like a huge part of what makes South American gaming. And so you've seen a lot of younger South Americans, younger Eastern Europeans especially. But I think especially when you look at like NA and like Western Europe, you're not really getting a young demographic. Like, I think the youngest player to like come recently was like RCY, who's sort of on the come up, but he's kind of just like a special case, right? There's not really any other 16, 17-year-olds like that are starting to make their ways into like the 9Ks, like the way that Samael did back in the day. So I think you're going to see that more in your other regions. And I feel like much of NA is sort of like stagnant until something really revives player growth in younger players.
I think the North American scene especially is more to like I call it like hobbyist culture, where it's incredibly difficult to be a professional gamer in North America because it's just so goddamn expensive to live here. Whereas, as you said, like you live in South America, Eastern Europe, Southeast Asia, cost of living is significantly lower and you can get by on a gamer salary. And a lot of these like gaming prize pools are often, pretty similar across all the regions, right? Like the DPC is the same, right, for all the regions. But like how much farther does that money go in Southeast Asia than it does in North America? And in New York, you're living in poverty, and in Manila, right, you've got your apartment downtown, you're set. So it's just a different climate that lends. Yeah, if you want to be a pro gamer, you should move out of North America, probably.
It's worked for many in the past.
I gotta have a conversation with my wife.
Well, Sandwich is qualifying through us. He heard about the 2 slots, and he's going down there.
Don't quit your day job is the real lesson, and don't
Listen,
stop going
son.
to school or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's another kind of cool possibility for NADCL is because it's so kind of casual and you get experience. Like, I know for me, like, I'm bad at the game, like, whatever. But I still play the in-houses because I'm going to learn a lot laning against people twice as good as me or 4 times as good as me, right? And so I think even for younger audiences, just like a positive sort of way to engage with people way better than you isn't something that happens in pubs, really.
Well, speaking of people twice as good as you, I don't want to leave the best news. AMB is a free agent.
Confirmed.
Yep.
Skyward.
Sportface Killers are decided they're not going to gobble up their first pick of the draft. They're going to let AMB back into the pool and test their luck with somebody else.
Yeah, I think AMB getting first place in in-house was kind of a curse as much as it was a blessing, because you get first picked and then the rest of your kind of pick order gets a lot harder after that first pick.
Yes, that's why I was thinking this week maybe we let the teams decide what pick order they want in the redraft. How does that sound?
How would you decide?
I mean, basically whoever's got last place, right, they get to pick which pick order they wanted first.
That sounds fine with.
So instead of just like automatically assigning them first pick, right, they could just, they could take 7-9 or 7-10 example.
Yeah, I think one of the things it's definitely something I talked about it with my team, and I think it's going to take a couple iterations till we find like the format that works. But I think that this format, the way that it is currently with the draft, is definitely a bit abusable, especially if like you win week 1. So I was thinking if we won week 1, right, like we gobble up Flea with the golden, and then me and Ush get gobbled up, right? Let's say we bombed week 2. We lost the first round. We get the first overall draft pick, right? We're getting the first draft pick, and we have 3 champions like that just won. So my idea was like, is there any?
Hold on. So
go ahead.
You lose your first pick when you have the gobble up.
Oh, okay. So it consumes your first pick. Okay.
Yeah. So if you take like second pick, right, you're gonna be picking like 17th.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. All right, makes sense. All right, then never mind. All right, so this is boring. That was the one thing I was getting a bit concerned about. I was like, if we just like lost week 2, or we just like get in, some random like 9K player that unfortunately like his team didn't win, or, but all right, I think if that's the case, then it definitely makes things a bit safer. So yeah, definitely looked it out. No abuse here. So that's good.
All right, good to know. There's some rumblings out there.
Okay, we're hitting the 43-ish minute mark. I want to talk to Skyward to wrap this thing up. For Bullish on Gaming, you played with pretty much the identical roster for both week 1 and week 2. You had Viku, but Xeriscape was standing in for some of the games. Going into week number 3, are you looking to have the same roster? Are you expecting things to change? If they change, how drastic is that going to be?
So for me personally, I would like to see the same team. I think the one advantage that we would have over every team is obviously we won once before. So who says we can't do it again? And with every week that we play together as a 5 stack, we're getting more and more experience, right? If other rosters are switching, there's like an adjustment period. No one's really scrimming that much, and you only have like 2 days between the redraft and your roster. So I think if we're able to keep the same 5-man, I mean, I think the idea is we just get better week after week after week. I think this Double King team is a team that we could have lost to the first week, honestly. And I think, us 2-0ing them just shows, and them coming back and 2-1ing us just shows that, I don't think we're undeniably the best. Obviously, we still have our cracks, and they were able to expose that. But the more we play and the more solidified we get our gameplay, the more those series are going to sort of come in our favor. So hopefully we stick together. But it's all pending what other people draft, right? We have a lot of good players if Triceps won the first 2 picks, if Xeriscape went early, I wouldn't be surprised. Like, they're good. They definitely deserve to be here.
So you actually want to stay as 5?
Me personally, I don't know about the others, but I would like to stay together with this roster.
Do you think that's actually going to happen?
I mean, it happened after we won a championship. So unless, I don't know, Trash Knights got really mad and wants to grief us, then maybe there's an angle where they snag up a Seps and a Xeriscape.
Gobble Up. You had Golden Gobble Up last week, though. So
just take other players.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. If they just like snag us, and it's like, no, what are we gonna do? I'm just gonna have to pick some other players. But yeah, I hope we stay together. That's my goal.
Okay. I'll take that feedback into consideration. I don't know if that's actually going to happen, but we'll see. Sandwich, you were going to comment there. I think you're a Bullish on Gaming supporter, aren't you? You voted.
I'm looking at A and B for our first draft.
Yeah,
we're scooping up A and B.
Let's kick Osh. Actually, this guy. Did you see him lose mid? He had like 12 deaths or something. That guy's terrible.
Osh will be demoted to off lane for A and
B. Yeah,
B.
please. Like, God bless.
Okay.
Make Flea the water boy. Get Sandwich on the roster.
Sorry to hijack the interview, but I also wanted to quickly comment on how much you've been playing Muerta. I think that's a mistake. I think you got to shelf that hero and pick some real carries in this next turn.
I don't know. I'm kind of a Muerta believer. I'll be honest. Okay. Like, I injected this shit in my veins, but
Gobble Up's votes finish tonight at midnight, so I might have to change mine.
I'll play Sven. I swear, I'll play Sven. I promise.
Gyrocopter, Sven. What else? I saw some Wraith King. That looks pretty promising.
I saw.
I like Razor. I hear it's cool.
Razor, yep.
I'm a level 30 Morphling, man. Like, okay,
Got to ban Razor against Astronaut Esports as well.
That is true. That is true.
Double King only plays that. So,
Skyward, I saw on your Discord that your profile picture is Shadowheart.
It is. Yeah.
Is she the current best girl, or what's?
100%. I mean, it's not even a question. Like, I don't know. I played so much Baldur's Gate 3 when that dropped. Like, let me tell you, I think that's one of the best games I've ever played. Like, I don't normally play these kinds of RPGs. That was like the best shit I've ever played. Like, it was peak. I mean, Dota exists. Yeah, that's my bad. But like in terms of like a single player experience, I really enjoyed Baldur's Gate. But yeah, currently she's my number 1. I guess I'm gonna have to do a couple other campaigns and see, maybe that'll change. Or maybe they could drop some cool new Dota skins, and that could also change. I kind of shift with the tides, so we'll see what's up.
Gotcha. But so the Marcy skin or the AM skin, they aren't topping Shadowheart right now.
I mean, those heroes suck. Like, I'm not a 5 player, so I'm not picking Marcy. I played the fuck out of her when she was a carry. She's not a carry anymore, so it's like, what can you do? Anti-mage is like unpickable. You pick AM, you get Gyro or Sven or literally any other hero in the game, and you just lose. It's like, I guess you have your 90-10 Dusa matchups, but that's it.
All right, Sandwich, transition us out of this podcast. What do you got to say?
This has been the Tidebringer, PPD, Skyward, Wesley, Sandwich. Thanks for listening, bros.
Perfect outro. Bye, everyone.
No,